Alright, now we're going to discuss how blackface plays a part in the history of entertainment. So we got Mordecai Emanuel Noah, was an American sheriff, playwright, diplomat, journalist, and utopian. He was born in a family of Portuguese Sephardic ancestry, the most important Jewish lay leader in New York at the time. And we have Edward Williams Clay, an American artist, illustrator, and political cartoonist. He created the notoriously racist collection of lithographs titled Life in Philadelphia. The cartoons were highly popular and were copied by artists in New York and London. Life in Philadelphia perpetuated a racial stereotype of hyper-elegant blacks that became a standard trope of the minstrel shows. The minstrel show, also called minstrelsy, was an American form of racist theatrical entertainment developed in the early 19th century. Each show consisted of comic skits, variety acts, dancing, and musical performances that depicted people specifically of African descent. The shows were performed by mostly white people wearing blackface makeup for the purpose of playing the role of black people. Blackface minstrelsy was the first uniquely American form of theater. Minstrel shows emerged as brief burlesque and comics entrants in the early 1830s. The genre has had a lasting legacy and influence and was featured in television series as recently as the mid-1970s. Minstrel shows were popular before slavery was abolished, sufficiently so that Frederick Douglass described blackface performers as the filthy scum of white society who have stolen from us a complexion denied them by nature and wish to make money and pander to the corrupt taste of their fellow white citizens. While at least some whites were interested in black song and dance by actual black performers, 19th century New York slaves shingle danced for spare change on their days off, and musicians played what they claimed to be Negro music on so-called black instruments like the banjo. Meanwhile, there had been several attempts at a legitimate black stage performance, the most ambitious probably being New York's African Grove Theater, founded and operated by free blacks in 1821. But we know how that go. Anytime black people have their own independent, successful things, they come hating. Whether it's Wilmington or Black Wall Street, Tulsa, the list goes on and on. Despite the haters, they thrived for a while. Founded and operated by William Alexander Brown, a free black man from the West Indies, it opened 6 years before the final abolition of slavery in New York. The theater was attended by all types of black New Yorkers: free, former slave, middle class, working class, along with others. For some years, the African Company, the company of the African Grove, played classics and many other plays with an entirely black cast and crew to mostly black audiences. It was the third of at least four attempts to create a black theater in the city and the most commercially successful. At one point, the theater had to build an extra level of seats to house white audiences that wanted to see the performance. After a few years, city officials shut down the African Grove because of complaints about conduct that was normal among working class white New York theater audiences of the time was considered unacceptably boisterous when displayed by blacks. It is thought that the real reason was because the black theater was becoming successful as many other venues. One source says that the theater was mysteriously burned to the ground in 1826. All right, now let's connect the dots. Mordecai Emanuel Noah, an American sheriff, playwright, diplomat, journalist, and utopian. He was born in a family of Portuguese Sephardic ancestry. He was the most important Jewish lay leader in the New York area in the early 19th century, and the first Jew born in the United States to reach national prominence. His politically motivated reviews, blasting plays, and performers of color at William Brown's African Grove Theater led to his identification as the originator of the stereotypical black portrayed in American minstrel shows. Noah moved to New York, where he founded and edited the National Advocate, the New York Enquirer, New York Courier, and Enquirer later merged together, the Evening Star, and the Sunday Times newspaper. So think about all that control he had over these publications back then. Noah was known to use his power as an editor of the National Advocate and law enforcement powers as a sheriff to personally shut down rival plays produced by black theater groups that drew attention and revenue away from his own productions. So to sum it up, Mordecai pretty much had the position and the power to suppress and even destroy any rival companies and theaters and he went out his way to target black men, black companies.